Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is a big topic, and we're going to discuss it in a small amount of time. The topic is consciousness. Now, there's a reason I want to talk about this, and it's to do with how I approach the work that I do. People know me as a hypnotist, a change work guy, but I don't use hypnosis or NLP or other things in the way that most people use them. By this, what I mean is I'm not interested in unconsciously reprogramming people or installing new behaviours or installing new beliefs or anything like this. I don't like to do that kind of work, and there's a reason why I don't like to do that kind of work, and it's because it's extremely hit and miss. You see, when you're dealing with human beings, what you're dealing with is infinitely complex bio-psycho-social systems. So if you go in at a very chunked down level and try and make adjustments within that broader system, well, that whole broader system is likely to be resisting those small chunked down adjustments. Okay, so it's very tricky to get that work to actually work in a kind of long-lasting sense. It's very easy to get temporary, short-term shifts in awareness and shifts in state and this type of thing, but to turn those into a real life change when you're working at a very chunked down level is actually quite tricky to do. So I don't tend to work in terms of these small chunked down sideways shifts. I work at the level of what I call shifting consciousness, raising consciousness, transforming consciousness. Because when you shift the higher level consciousness that's governing the entire system, everything else that's underneath it also shifts and transforms. So this is the level I like to work at. Now, of course, that raises the question, what the hell are we talking about when we're talking about consciousness? If you're talking about shifting someone's consciousness, transforming somebody's total consciousness or whatever, what exactly does that mean? It needs clarifying, because consciousness can mean, the word consciousness can mean many things to many people. It can mean almost an infinite number of things. So I want to clarify what I'm talking about when I'm talking about raising consciousness, shifting consciousness, transforming consciousness. Consciousness, in the way I think about it, is not just being awake, being conscious. It's more than just being awake or being conscious. It's more than just being aware. It's awareness, but awareness mediated by understanding. You see, it's awareness mediated by understanding. It's an awareness through a set of understandings and distinctions that enable us to see the thing we are bringing our consciousness to bear upon in rich and useful ways, so to speak. Now, you could say that when we're born, we don't have much by way of consciousness. We have awareness, but we don't really have any ability to differentiate between things, make distinctions in the world. We don't have a worldview. We don't have a set of operational understandings that enable us to bring ourselves functionally to bear upon the world in a way that enables us to make the kind of differences in the world that we want to make. They could be simple things like just, getting food on the table and meeting our base needs, or they could be higher level things. But when we're a baby, we don't have a map of the world. We don't have a worldview. We don't have a set of understandings. So we kind of have awareness, but not much consciousness. We're not conscious of the separation between ourselves and others necessarily even. And over time we develop sets of understandings that enable us to view the world in a more discerning way, in a more discriminating way, in a way that enables us to interact with it and bring ourselves to bear upon it, hopefully in functional ways. Okay? But this isn't always what happens. What happens is we end up almost with an arbitrary set of understandings that just get us by, that enable us to kind of muddle through. But they're not usually geared towards optimal living, optimal personal efficacy, and not just that, but general well-being. So a lot of people, when they reach adulthood, they have a kind of consciousness. They have a consciousness that gets them by. It gets them by. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that is not available from that consciousness. A whole bunch of possibilities that are not available from that consciousness. that just cannot be available without a shift in consciousness. So consciousness is really awareness plus understanding, functional understanding, if you want quality levels of consciousness. Now I want to share an analogy with you about this, because you can have general consciousness or you can have area-specific consciousness. I'm going to share an analogy with you because over the last week or so I've been playing a lot of chess. Now many years ago I learned chess in the sense that I learned the way the pieces moved on the board, and I also learned the objective of the game. Okay, so many years ago, this is what I learned of chess, and then I threw myself into playing chess in a pretty haphazard way. I would start moving the pieces around, and I would usually be playing opponents who were no more skilled than I, so it's really just the luck of the draw, who got lucky, what came out where, maybe I'd see something. But I didn't really have a deep understanding of the game at all. So recently, when I came back to learning chess, I'd forgotten even most of the movements of the pieces, so I had to go back, I had to look at the rules of chess, and I got the movements down, and I got the objective of the game down, and I started playing chess again on various chess apps on my iPad. Now, I know a lot more now about life, the universe, everything, and about learning, and about consciousness, and about understanding than I knew when I originally attempted to learn chess. So what I was aware of was, even though I knew the basics of the game, I had very low levels of what you might call chess consciousness. And what this meant was, as I looked at the chessboard, I could see all the pieces on the board, and I could see the board, and I had some knowledge of how those pieces moved. But there was a whole load that I wasn't seeing. What I was really seeing was a load of jumbled chaos, really. As soon as the first few moves had happened and some pieces had come out, it's just kind of chaos, and I'd be groping almost blindly through this chaos for something that kind of looked right. And I go, oh, that piece of moved there. And of course, because I'm working in this fog, a sort of chess fog, I've got low levels of chess consciousness. I just don't really know what I'm doing. I can't have a strategy, I can't have an overall feel for what's happening within the board. I don't have any deeper sense of what needs to happen. So I'm kind of groping in the dark and making almost random moves. I mean, they seem like good ideas at the time, based on what I know, based on the level of chess consciousness I have. But of course, I'm playing against computers now, and even though I've not got the setting very high, it's not like I used to play when I play against some equally clouded human mind. I'm playing against the computer. It's a bit sharper. The computer has, ironically, even though it doesn't have awareness, it kind of has a better chess consciousness than I do, or at least it has an algorithm that substitutes for chess consciousness. So being aware of this, I did what I always do these days when I'm breaking a skill set down. I broke it down into drills. Now, fortunately, chess is a rich game and chess tuition is well established. So I was able to get various apps that were able to allow me to focus on things like chess problems, focus on positional ideas and things, and really take the pieces out, starting to study endgames so I could see how very small numbers of pieces on the board will work, starting to get a sense of not just how the pieces move, but the potentials within the movement of those pieces, and then looking at how pieces interact and the potentials within the interaction of those pieces. I only did this across a few days, just a few days. But after a few days of doing this, my consciousness around chess had changed. So look at the board, and instead of just seeing this kind of this load of sensory data with no discrimination really within it, I'm starting to see a lot more potentials, possibilities, options, choices. It suddenly gets a lot richer. Now I can start really engaging and really playing effectively because my chess consciousness has increased. Now there's two elements to the chess consciousness. There's the understanding set and the awareness. Without the understanding, I can be as aware as I want to be. I can be totally focused on the board, but I don't have any way of of seeing distinctions, of discriminating between different aspects of information, seeing things at multiple levels. I've got a way of really understanding it, how much awareness I bring. So understanding plus awareness equals consciousness. Now, of course, on the flip side is I can develop my understanding, but if my awareness drops, if I'm being distracted, if I'm not really focusing, my mind is flitting around, my consciousness has dropped as well. You see, so there are two factors. There's understanding, and then there's awareness. Now, the more evolved my chess consciousness becomes, the more I will be able to get away with awareness drifts. You see, I'll be able to get away with it more. I'll be able to play more effectively in an unconscious fashion. But the route to playing more effectively in an unconscious fashion still comes via the development of a higher level of chess consciousness. Okay, and you get this when you're driving a car. People get to the point when they've been driving cars for a long time. They have good levels of driving consciousness, right? Good levels of driving consciousness, but they can let the awareness factor drop when they're dealing with everyday driving conditions. But the consciousness, the potential for the consciousness is still there, so they can ratchet it back up if they're in difficult driving conditions. So one minute they might be driving along, listening to the radio, chatting to the passenger in the car, and they've got their awareness levels down. Okay, they've got a good understanding, a rich map of driving, so their awareness levels can calm down, and they'll be fine. But then they hit difficult traffic conditions, and maybe the rain starts hammering down and things get difficult, and they have to turn the radio off, and they have to say, sorry, I just need to concentrate here for a moment. And they ratchet their consciousness back up. Okay? They ratchet their consciousness back up. So those are two examples: chess consciousness, driving consciousness. But there's a whole other area which you could call living consciousness. There is a consciousness around life and living life. Living life in ways that enable you to extract healthy levels of fulfillment from your life moment to moment, that enable you to engage with other human beings in effective ways, in ways that can bring fulfillment and peace and well-being to you, but also to other people as well, create harmony. There's understandings around communication that you can bring to bear in order to influence people more effectively, if that's something you're choosing to do. Okay, there's all sorts of toxic reasons people want to influence other people, and there are some pretty healthy reasons as well, so it's always good to get those separated out, but that's another story. So what I'm saying here is we have a life consciousness, and some people have very low levels of consciousness, and they have low levels of consciousness because they don't have the understandings in place that enable them to navigate themselves in the world effectively. When you do, it's called wisdom, by the way. This is what wisdom is. Wisdom, when somebody is very wise, they are imbued with a rich set of understandings that enable them to engage with and navigate life very effectively, fluidly, in ways that enable them to connect with fulfillment and well-being and all of these kinds of things. This is what wisdom is. Okay, wisdom's an aspect of a higher level of consciousness. Now, if you're stuck somewhere in life, if there's a repeating pattern happening for you where you are getting a certain experience come up for you over and over and over again, I can tell you this: it is not the world. The world is not the problem. Whatever's going on in the world is just the conditions of the game, so to speak. Right? If you are unable to flow effectively with life, and I'm not saying there won't be ups and downs, and I'm not saying everything is going to be perfect, but there's something missing in your consciousness, in your understanding set, in your ability to move your mind how you need to. There's something missing. And I don't mean to say there's anything wrong, because there is nothing wrong. I genuinely believe that people make the best choices available to them given their understandings in the moment, or if you like, given their level of consciousness, awareness plus understanding in the moment. People always make the best choices available to them given their level of consciousness. And when somebody shifts their consciousness, they shift their understanding, when they're able to see something differently in a way that offers a richer set of choices, boom, it becomes a no-brainer. They choose differently. And we live in a world of potential choices that we don't see because of low levels of consciousness all the time. Now, one of the reasons that I work with people around shifting consciousness, rather than just trying to kind of jiggle under the hood and unconsciously reprogram people, is because, number one, shifting at the level of consciousness gives people a high level of adaptability. Okay, they can start dealing with novel and different situations. When life throws up curveballs, they can adapt. The higher level of consciousness has a built-in capacity for higher levels of adaptation, which if you're making low-level shifts, they don't. This is why often you can help people make shifts with NLP and hypnosis at a low level, at a more content of thought or structure of thought, even around a specific area. And then a curveball will come up from life and it'll go and whack everything back. But when you create shifts at higher levels, at the level of consciousness, you create within a person richer sets of choice across the board, higher levels of adaptability. This is one of the reasons that I always work at this level. So I hope that makes some kind of sense to you. I hope that's tickling your neurons at a certain level so as you can start opening your mind to new possibilities, because there's a lot of potential available within us. We live all the time, moment by moment by moment, with a whole set of potential choices. But they only become choices to us when we are able to see them, when we have the kind of consciousness that is able to recognize them. And when we have the kind of consciousness that is able to recognize those choices are then available to us as genuine choices, not just potential choices, but actual choices. And when I say choices, I'm not talking about options. I'm talking about the real ability to get in and go, boom. And being as, if we take the principle, we make the best choices available to us, given our understanding, given what we can see, given our level of consciousness, you know, we get options we just didn't have before. Okay? Options and choices as to how to flow with life in creative, fulfilling, and useful ways. So hopefully that's expanded your consciousness a little bit around the potential of consciousness, and let's see how this conversation unfolds going forward in the comment section, wherever it is that you're watching this video.